Good afternoon, fine gentles and lades.
Men's, women's, others who fall into any form of category.
People who were born.
People who exist.
Yes, specifically the people who exist. And not the ones who don't.
Those
Welcome.
can get scary.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Lore Lodge.
Welcome to
You might notice we're both wearing jackets. It's because it's chilly in here.
It do be a little brisk in the lodge.
Yeah, nobody has been here in several days. It is not warm currently at night, and this building is made of stone. So it's like 55 degrees in here right now.
Yep.
That's what we're dealing with.
We're also still vaguely sick.
Yeah.
So that's part of it as well.
And I just learned that Aiden's high school didn't make him take a U.S. government course. So
Yeah,
everybody in chat make fun of him for not knowing laws.
You remember all the conversations we've had over the last decade or so where
Where I've said things and you've been stunned by them.
yeah, just in terms of the U.S.
Basic
government and
things,
how it
by the way.
functions. Yeah, so I couldn't sleep last night, so we had a long conversation yesterday, and I was like, man, I feel like I should be more informed. I do have a copy of the Constitution in my house, but I've never read the full thing. I'm just going to do that, and wow, it is amazing how much more you understand how the government operates by one simple document.
Oh, yeah. It's helpful, to say the least.
And it's shocking that up to this point, I've never had a reason or been thoroughly encouraged enough to read it.
Yeah, it is. It is shocking.
I'm a little sad. About
I'm keeping the paddle upstairs. We're gonna give him a spanking.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little nice ginger spanking for not knowing his constitution, but that's fine.
The version I have even gives some cool information about the founding fathers ahead of it, and I've done research on them.
Yeah.
I had to do a book report on Benny Frank in 4th grade.
Oh, what a guy! What a guy!
Didn't know that I knew that Washington didn't actually have wooden teeth.
Yeah, they were human teeth for the most part.
Well, and I didn't know the other details of it, which were also hippopotamus, some elephant tusk
Yep.
that was carved, and they were affixed via lead.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Isn't history just so very silly?
It really is.
Yeah, this is why people should watch history videos.
I think
YouTube does not like it when we make history videos.
I think for the sake of History Unhinged, since both you and Steven focus on pre-Renaissance, I'm going to start researching post-Renaissance,
Sounds good.
just so that way I can fill in the gap. Also, it's Age of Sail, more.
Yeah, that's more your thing. That's
Yeah,
more your
exactly.
speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of history, this week, if I can manage to make it happen, we should actually have a Missing 411 video, not this Friday, but next week. We should have a Missing 411 video that includes a history segment for the first time in ages, and it's gonna be about the Lenape, which gets me excited because that's our local tribe.
Yep.
And one thing you might not know about Southeast Pennsylvania, one of the really nice things we can say here, you may have heard the phrase, you are on stolen land. Now, without getting into the politics and the history and context surrounding that phrase, we live in one of the few places where there is not a single argument to be made that it was stolen. William Penn got it in a charter, came here and asked the Lenape what a fair price was. And they gave it to him, and he bought it. And that is one thing that makes me proud as a person from the Philadelphia area, a Pennsylvanian, is we had one of the best founding members of this country from the very beginning with Billy Penn. And it was very wrong of us to ever build a building taller than his hat.
Yeah. That there was a official rule that we weren't supposed to do that, and then somebody did it.
Yeah.
And
then we didn't win a championship in any sport for decades. And then they built the Comcast building, and somebody put a little statue of William Penn at the top, and we started winning things. So, I'm just saying, curses are real, especially when they have to do with a Quaker's hat. He was a good man. His son's not so much.
we should cover that at some point.
We will. But yeah, I'm excited to do a video covering basically the first tribe that people encounter here in Pennsylvania. They are an Eastern Algonquian. They are kind of a weird spot too, because the Lenape aren't the Powhatan, nor are they like the Abenaki and the not Wampanoag, the Wabanaki Confederacy, the groups that come from Maine, Newfoundland, all these areas. Also, if you're mad at me for how I pronounced Newfoundland in the video last week, I'm going to pronounce it the same way in the one that's coming out this week. It's because no matter how I pronounce it, somebody yells at me.
Newfoundland. Take it or leave it.
I said Newfoundland, I've said Newfoundland, I've said Newfoundland. I've done everything I can, and it's always wrong. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I had to pronounce Icelandic terms.
Yeah.
You guys can bug off when it comes to Newfoundland.
Did we get approval to use the audio for that?
Not yet, because I have forgotten to ask.
Okay.
I will do that.
I
Roxy, if you're watching the show, we'd love your approval to use your version, because I tried to say the Kensington runestone inscription in the actual it's not really Swedish or Norwegian, it's just kind of a hodgepodge of Scandinavian. I tried, and I just sounded like I was reciting Sabaton lyrics. And also, if I try to do it with a just general German accent, that won't work either, even though I took German for 5 years, because I speak German with a Russian accent.
How?
I have no idea. This has puzzled myself and every German teacher I've ever had. Like, in high school, my German teacher was like, it's better than speaking German with an American accent, but also what? So
2 things. 1, you played a lot of Call of Duty as a kid, and 2, you would never cut it as a spy.
No. No. See, here's the thing. I might cut it as a spy because nobody would be able to guess my country of origin. An American who speaks German with a Russian accent who has never been to Russia in his life, that's a hard one. You pin that one down.
Yeah, would be interesting.
Am I a Russian spy or an American spy, Aiden? Which one am I?
I think people are going to assume you're a Russian spy.
Exactly, but then I am very clearly an American.
The question is, where would you be stationed?
I don't know. I feel like I could pull it off in South Africa.
Yeah, nobody knows what's going on down there.
No. Have you ever spoken to a South African person?
Yes.
It's an accent. It is an accent, all right. It is one of the accents of all time.
It's fun.
It's a fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not insulting it at all. It's just like, are you English or Dutch or Swedish? What are you?
A combination of all three.
Yeah. I think I did once say that Dutch sounds like a German trying to speak English while giving a Swedish guy a hand job.
That reminds me,
blowjob. Yeah.
I literally, in the History Unhinged episode that's coming out this Friday, I just put in the pictures of how Japan painted the Dutch people.
Oh, it's so funny. They're giants. They're giants with crazy facial features.
Yeah, it's very entertaining.
Yeah, but
I forgot just how funny we thought it was.
Now that we've rambled a bit, as we do at the beginning of every show, to get the juices flowing, the conversational juices.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, Aiden's coming with me for Pop Culture Crisis this week.
Oh yeah, I'm finally going down. Should be fun.
If you watch Pop Culture Crisis with Brett and Mary, I've been on there a whole bunch of times, probably their most recurring guest at this point, who is not an employee of the overall company, and I finally got Thorn Bussy to follow me.
I'd been wanting to go for ages. It was just like I didn't have enough ahead of time information.
Yeah.
To where I was able to get the video done ahead of time.
Yeah. But Thursday and Friday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. Let's take over the chat, shall we? I would love to see more people lore in their lodge.
I think it'd be fun.
Than culturing their crisis.
Yes.
But today we're talking about something that we come back to every few months, because this week I'm doing a Missing 411 video, and we're coming back to the Pennsylvania cluster. And the reason I didn't do the Pennsylvania cluster for a while was because every time I looked at it, it made me angry.
Do you want to tell them why it made you angry?
David Paulides picked 39 cases. I would say 8 out of 10 do not fit the Missing 411 profile as established. You look at the Great Smoky Mountains cluster, there's a lot of cases in there. And for the most part, it's like, this is weird. And there's a full story of why it was so weird that this person wasn't found, or why it took so long to find them. Pennsylvania, it's like, this 2-year-old disappeared.
That's it?
Yeah, in almost every single case. Now, we went over the ones that are just straight up not weird back in, I think, January. And that video did surprisingly well for what it was. I think it helped that we made the music faster every time we went between cases. But when I'm looking through the ones that I'm doing this week, which are the ones that, to be perfectly honest, to be frank, do not seem weird to me, but they do seem criminal. as I'm looking through him, I'm like, he had to stretch so much to make these missing 411 cases. First of all, one of the cases is in eastern Ohio.
Wait, really quickly, to clarify why you say stretch, because he was the one who developed the profile of missing 411, correct?
And as we went through in the first video, I took the opportunity in the why do so many children go missing in Pennsylvania video, I took that opportunity to go back through the profile. And one reason I wanted to talk about this today is one of our shorts from forever ago has been getting a lot of comments. It's the missing 411 profile in 54 seconds or something like that. It's been getting a lot of comments where people are like, oh, you left so much out. Oh, why are you taking somebody else's work and presenting it as your own? Even as I'm saying, this is the missing 411 profile as created by David Politis. That video comes from a time in our career when I agreed with the man. And people are complaining about it.
Yeah.
So, when you look at the profile points and you break them down, at first I was like, oh, there's really, yeah, I guess you can say that most of the cases had at least a few of these. And then I started thinking about it more and more, and the profile points only actually make sense when you realize that he's trying to lead you to a certain conclusion. And this is what's frustrated me for 2 years now with David Politis is whenever I say David Politis is telling you Bigfoot is responsible for missing 411, people go, well, he's never said that. Meanwhile, on the North America Bigfoot search website, his company, his organization, the missing 411 books are listed, and they're kind of presented as evidence. And then you kind of look through these cases, and it's more obvious with the Smokies, for example, where, to be perfectly honest, we went down there, we did a whole video, and for the most part, they didn't seem all that weird, but we could not wrap our heads around Dennis Martin.
Yeah, and granted, we acknowledged while we were down there that obviously the environment had changed.
Yeah.
The field was nowhere near what it was back then. So due to the different circumstances, we can understand that, okay, maybe there are different ways that this could have happened that we can't necessarily properly analyze based on the different, evidence that exists here. That being said, understanding based off of photography and descriptions of the location at the time.
Yeah.
Those taken into account while being in the location we were at still led it to be a confusing conclusion.
Yeah, and it gets even weirder when you look at the FBI's behavior because the FBI was being weird.
Yeah, and
objectively, the FBI was being weird in that case.
Specifically with that one encounter up on that road.
Yeah, with Harold Key.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, where, I mean, the description Harold Key gave to the media is objectively not the place that he showed the park rangers. It's just not.
Yeah.
I mean, the location he described, he said, was at least 5, probably 10 miles away from the parking lot and to the east.
Mm.
He leads park rangers 2 miles to the west. We've been there twice now. We've hiked those trails. We've been up those mountains. Whatever the official story is with Dennis Martin, it's wrong. I mean, it's just straight up wrong. There's no other way to put it. Even Nick from Missing Enigma has kind of, who usually is even more skeptical than we are. Even when we had him on, he couldn't really come to an explanation of it either. So that one was genuinely weird. But that's not what you get with the Pennsylvania cluster. For example, one of them, and it's hard for me to say if this is him being deliberately misleading or if this is him just not doing his due diligence. Because, if you look through, for example, some of the cases, and I'll get to the point about the profile in a minute, but some of the cases, like, one of the kids' last names was Minarson. It was one of the later ones, and I can't remember off the top of my head. One of the kids' names was, I think, Gabriel Minarson. David's like, the last thing anybody saw was them going across the street to this one house, and then they disappeared, and nobody knew anything. Meanwhile, you actually look at the reporting from the time, the police are like, yeah, a woman down the street saw them playing out on the frozen river. Our divers and dogs and everyone, our dogs led us out onto the river to a spot where there was a hole in the ice. And then the dogs stopped. And we sent divers down there. But after a while, it just became too dangerous. And, we can't say for sure that they fell into the water, but all of the evidence suggests they fell into the water. And where this connects to the profile is I can't, again, off the top of my head, can't remember the exact location where this happened. I think it was out in, the Alleghenies. This was in a town. This was closer to being a smiley face killer's case than a missing 411 case. Because one of the key things with missing 411 that comes up over and over and over again, and I think part of the issue here is that this book came out in 2011, and missing 411 didn't really find its footing until I think 2017. When you
Was that recently?
Yeah. I think The Hunted came out in 2019. I think Missing 411, the movie, the first one, came out in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So there's like 5 or 6 years between the books coming out and the movies coming out.
Mm.
And in that time, there's a lot more focus on the national parks and the government protected wilderness areas, the state protected wilderness areas. And I think it's because David realized, these ones are the ones that are, again, I don't know what his intentions are. I can only assume that he had one of two thoughts. Either, man, these urban ones are a little too well documented. People are going to be able to poke holes. That's the non-charitable option. Or potentially, if you want to give him a more charitable option, he realized that, oh yeah, maybe these urban ones aren't connected. Maybe these aren't weird. So I'll focus on the ones that happen in the wilderness. I don't know which of the two it is, but if you look at the profile as it is in Eastern United States, and this is why it's so weird, all of the Great Smokies cases are in a national park or near it, and they're all in the wilderness. You look at the Pennsylvania cluster, very few of them are on public land at all, and several of them aren't in the wilderness at all either, like the Minarson one, and then one of the ones I'm most intrigued about that I'll be doing this week is Elsie Frothmmeer. Fox Chase, Pennsylvania, that is Philadelphia. Now, granted, it was, I think, 1934, so it wasn't as built up at the time. It was, a little bit, it still wouldn't be called rural. But
it was still like suburban.
But it was suburbs. Yeah, it probably would have looked something like Phoenixville.
Yeah.
If a little bit more spread out. She goes missing in a public park in the city. Yeah, it's a park. It's a tiny park. The park's still there. In fact, if we have time, I'd love to go down there and take a walk around because, again, the park is still there. That's not a missing 411 case by any stretch. The only thing that matches with the missing 411 profile about this one is that she was of German descent, which, again, is just the most common ancestry type in America. Not most Americans, but the largest group in America, I think it's like I want to say it's 17%, I think, is German American. And that is, if you look at a map of the U.S. and you look at the dominant ethnic group in most of it, state by state, it's usually German.
I'm surprised not Irish.
Irish? So here's the thing. There are more Irish Americans than there are Irish people.
Yes. Yeah,
by
far.
A large metric. Thing is, most of them came over between like the 1850s and the early 1900s. And for the most part, largely because they were coming over impoverished, they ended up in the big cities. So Boston, New York, Philadelphia, DC. Those all have very large Irish populations. That's also what happened with the Italians. Most of them who came over here did so in the latter half of the 19th century or the early 20th, and they didn't have money, so they got jobs in factories in the cities. Or, for example, my family, they were contractors. Italians, the Piombinos, they came over here, set up shop, and they did two things. They ran restaurants and they built houses. My parents still live in a house built by my mom's great uncles, which is cool. That's a pretty cool thing, if I gotta say.
Oh, very much.
I was just at a family pork roast on Saturday, which used to be at the local Italian American club, and then the Italian American club disrespected my grandfather, who, I'm not making any implications about the mafia here. The man hated the mafia, but he was a super highly respected member of the Italian community here. So apparently the IAC's pork roast looks pretty sad without the Piombino clan, which, haha. But no, I was sitting and talking to a whole bunch of my cousins. It's kind of cool how much of our family really just got here and stopped.
Yeah.
That didn't happen with the Germans, who mostly came over in the 1700s and the early 1800s, when there was still a lot of land around. A lot of them came over here with money in their pockets, sold their farm in Germany so that they could start a farm here. And they were farmers. historically. We believe the Mattis side of my family were probably German farmers who got here in the 1700s. There's a little bit of a weird spot in my ancestry. I've been looking into it where there's a gap. There's a spot where, like, we know there are Mattises here. We can't figure out which ancestor connects where. It's really strange. And that's like the late 1800s where that happens. Also found out that one of my great grandfather on my dad's side was like worked for Merck and had a whole bunch of patents.
Oh, really?
And somehow left no money to the family.
I guess he subscribed to the idea if you can't take it with you.
I think it was that if I'm not mistaken, he ended up remarrying, and I think he left it all to his stepkids, which is a very Mattis thing to do, to be perfectly honest. That does not surprise me.
We love our own familial slander on this show.
Yeah. My father would not disagree with me in any way on this, nor would my grandmother.
Incredible.
Honestly, probably neither would my uncle. I haven't spoken to my aunt in many years, as you might expect. I don't know why. I don't know what the problem is.
There are cousins I have that I still haven't met. So.
I was at the pork roast for the Piombino side.
Yeah.
There were several occasions where it was very obvious that these people to whom I am closely related, these are second cousins. We didn't know who each other were.
Yep. I don't know if I know it was definitely partially an Irish thing on my side, and I know there was a lot of German on portions of my family as well.
Yeah.
Were large families also an Italian thing?
Oh, yeah. Irish and Italian Catholics had huge families.
Yeah.
My mother is one of 10, 7 of who made it.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad.
Oh, by the way, I'm talking. These are people born between like 1958 and 1972.
Yeah, same.
Like 3 didn't make it. If you want to know how recent infant mortality being an issue in middle class white families was.
No, it's the same thing on my mom's side. She was one of, I think, 5 and only 3 made it.
Yeah, so kind of crazy. But point is, there was my Uncle Dante, specifically, who I used to live next to his brother before he passed. Again, lived next to his brother. Had to ask me, I'm so sorry, but which one are you again? Yeah, my another cousin called my cousin Ben by his dad's name, even though Ben's dad had passed away years ago. Like, again, I'm almost 30.
Yeah. No, yeah, I get it.
So
I just met one of my cousins that is our age, that has lived in this area his entire life, who is the son of my grandfather's brother's son. We look very similar.
Oh, I'm sure.
Met him for the first time like 3 months ago.
I think I have I believe, first cousin, if not second, who went to Radnor.
Yeah.
Never met him.
Yeah.
I literally one school district over. Not even the end of my, like, if you went up my street growing up, you were in Radnor Township.
Yep. Yeah.
Never met the kid. I don't know him. I literally do not know my own cousin, even though he grew up 3 miles down the road.
Life's weird, man.
Yeah. So, point being, the fact that most people in the missing 411 clusters are German or have some degree of German ancestry is not particularly shocking because that's just most of the people outside the cities. They're either Anglo-Saxon or they're German. That's just most common.
Yeah.
That's not weird. So that's really the only thing that connects Elsie Frothmmeer because, she goes missing while on a walk. Her dad was a pastor. He was visiting a sick patient or a sick member of the congregation. And she goes for a walk. She's supposed to be back in half an hour, and she's not. And I'll save the majority of the story for the video, but the point is, let me just tell you right now, this is a criminal case. It is not a missing 411 case. There's nothing weird about it. It's weird they didn't solve it, if I'm being perfectly honest, but it's also the Philadelphia police in 1934.
Yeah, things weren't as stringent back then.
Also, they didn't have DNA testing. I think fingerprints were in their infancy. Blood testing was in its infancy.
Did they even really have, like,
I believe they could test blood types.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the most that you would get was type at that point.
So there wasn't a lot. I think they could do a little bit to match hair.
Maybe like type of hair.
Yeah, I think it had to do with more like the chemical makeup of the hair than it did. Like they could match hair to an ethnicity. But I don't think that they couldn't do DNA tests. DNA testing became a thing in 1998.
Which is insane. It was that recent.
Yeah, that's when it became like a common practice. That's part of the reason for the John Benet Ramsey case being so weird. DNA testing happened during that case.
Yeah.
Part of the reason the boy in the box was eventually identified, we covered this one a couple of years ago, was because after 40 years, they finally could test his DNA. And it gave them nothing because they didn't have anybody's DNA on file that matched. The crazy thing about that case is I think 2021 or 2020, I believe, somebody did a DNA test and it got flagged by some international agency that holds DNA samples on cold cases so that they can try and like test them against things. So when it went through Ancestry or 23andMe and whatever, it was like, oh, wait a second, this guy has a partial DNA match with this kid. And they were able to like be like, hey, can you have your mom take one? And she took one and they were like, hey, one of your uncles is the father. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Just objectively insane. So Elsie Frothmmeer is, God, 20 some years before that. What?
No, you're good. I'm just adjusting.
Okay. Yeah, she's 20 something years before that. She walks into a park, and to be blunt, there's a couple of witnesses involved who I think did it. Because she's she's described as being an attractive girl. Standards might have been different. Just to be honest. But she's described as being an attractive woman. She's found naked. She's found, obviously, with some physical markings. In my opinion, I think I know what happened. I'm going to go back through the case this week, obviously. But then a solid half of the other ones in that cluster are before that I'm talking about as in like the potentially criminal. And all but I think 3 people involved are under the age of 4.
Okay. Why is that specifically interesting to you?
Because it feels like selection bias. You know, like Elsie Frothmmeer doesn't seem like she was kidnapped by Bigfoot, which is kind of where I was going with like when David Paulides has Missing 411 as evidence up on his Bigfoot site. Come on, guys. I mean, also, you can kind of see it follow a certain trajectory. In 2011, it's all very like, was it Bigfoot? Now it's suddenly, was it aliens? Like, come on, man. Aliens? Aliens? We're on aliens now?
When did he officially make that switch?
God, the Alien Connection came out in the past couple of years.
Okay, because I was going to say, I hadn't heard that up until right now.
Which is why I'm thinking about naming this video Missing 411 The Criminal Connection.
Yeah.
Like, to just very directly call that one out. I guess I probably should do a video on the Alien Connection movie at some point. That would be a good move.
Yeah, at the very least, it should be some form of reaction stream on your main channel.
Yeah.
Or personal, I should say.
Yeah, by the way, because we're not doing premieres anymore, I can't redirect off of the video to my personal channel where we do the gaming streams on Friday night. We used to have like 300 some people watch those. Now I get like 30, which sucks. So if you don't mind, Friday nights at 6 p.m., turn on notifications for the Aiden Mattis channel. If you are still interested in that. We were doing Sons of the Forest. We took a break from that to play some Repo. Because honestly, we're having too much fun in Sons of the Forest building stuff and not following the story. It's just kind of how it goes. Also, it got to a point where we were getting a little too white man in boat.
Yeah.
You know, like colonialism is when white man in
colonizing
boat.
spirit.
Yeah, we were like, it started off as like, all right, let's play this story, and then it kind of became, let's introduce civilization to these savages. Which, granted, in the game Sons of the Forest, they are evil cannibals.
I'm sure that's what they thought in the 1400s as well.
As we've established, it literally is. Except in this case, they're actually evil cannibals.
Yes.
Like, you know, they like, it's, some of it's the result of some genetic testing by not the natives. But that's not the point. That's not all of them. Some of them are legitimately just cannibals that want to eat people. Also, the game has oddly Christian themes because one of the enemy types is called a demon, and one of the ways you can fight them is by holding out a cross. It sets them on fire.
I mean, that's not odd. That's just blatant.
Yeah. But it's like, wow, that came out of nowhere. Okay.
Oh, there were no Christian overtones in the introduction segment?
Well, Sons of the Forest is the sequel.
To
to the forest.
Oh.
There's nothing in the forest that is Christian themed.
Interesting.
So it's like, interesting. Where'd this come from? It does open up into like alternate dimensions. The first one is very clearly like genetic testing gone wrong. The second one, there's some weird interdimensional stuff happening. And honestly, we haven't finished the game yet. We finished it back when it was in beta, but it wasn't finished.
Yeah.
So there was obviously something missing. I guess we're going to find out what it is at some point.
We're going to find out.
Also, those would do very well as like Let's Play edited videos. We just don't have anybody to do that.
Oh, this actually reminds me. Remember that story you wrote about essentially this kind of style of thing, but in Greenland, that we were going to turn into a movie?
I don't know about story so much as video game that I was thinking of.
No. The story of the group of like, not SAS people, but like covert people.
Oh, yeah. Now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Did you base that on anything real life related? Apparently that was a thing.
Huh?
Apparently there were like secret testing facilities that the U.S. had in the middle of the 20th century in Greenland. I just found out about this like a week ago. I meant to bring it up to you. Totally forgot.
I had literally no idea.
Yeah. No, apparently they dug like tunnels into... they had whole networks inside of glaciers in Greenland for secret government facilities. The only reason they stopped is because the ice was too unstable.
Damn, I'm good.
Yeah. And but that's the thing. It wasn't buildings. They were just carving things into the ice, like labs and stuff.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's nuts. So apparently there's lore to things that you manifested something into the past. Well done.
I am apparently a very powerful deity.
We're never beating the allegations.
It's not a cult, it's just a ranch.
We're never beating the allegations. Anyway, back to the criminal angle.
So Elsie Frothmmeer, very obviously criminal. Then there are all of the ones that are children, and you look at it, and even at the time, people are, like, for example, one of the cases we're going to cover is a kid named Bachman.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was like 23 months old or something. His parents are basically like, yeah, he disappeared from the house, and we only found out because our dog came and got us. A dog we had left tied to a tree. And after a few weeks of the police trying to figure out what might have happened here, because keep in mind, very small populations in 1883 in rural Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Like, even the neighbors are like, we think the parents know more than they're letting on. And the parents are like, no, we don't. What? Another one of the cases, it's a couple of kids, and again, like, there's a lot of options you can go to before you get to Bigfoot or anything supernatural for that matter. It's like, yeah, okay. This was a time period when children were actually rather frequently bought and sold.
Yeah, honestly,
that's what happened with the boy in the box.
It would not be a bad idea. It would probably take a lot, unfortunately, but to do a video on that.
Yeah.
Because even the little bits that we've covered passively, I guess you could say, it's amazing how commonplace that not only is today, but how much it was in the past. Yeah.
And at the time, it wasn't even necessarily like trafficking in the sense we think of it today. Oftentimes, it was a family that couldn't have a child, wanted a child, and instead of going to an orphanage, they bought one from another local family, which you can question the morals of the whole thing, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you have a rather wealthy family that wants a kid and you have a rather poor family that's willing to give one up to provide for the others, it's not evil. It's probably not what I would consider moral necessarily, but
depending on the situation, it can be a good thing. Depending on the situation, it can be a bad thing.
If you're a coal mining family with 8 kids and some wealthy family from the nearest city comes out and says, hey, we're looking to adopt a child. We're willing to pay you $500 if you're willing to, part with your baby. And keep in mind, this was a time period when records were not nearly as well kept.
Also, the likelihood that that baby would reach even adolescence was much lower.
You could very easily say, oh, well, the kid just disappeared, or, basically that's what I think happened in a lot of these cases.
And also,
I think the family sold the kid, and then everybody was like, yo, where the hell is the kid? And they were like, it just disappeared.
Well, also, at the end of the day, like, from their perspective, if you were a struggling family with multiple children and a wealthy family from the city comes and offers, hey, we would like a child, we would like to offer you this money, I'm sure the familial justification on the other end was basically, well, if we give our child to a wealthy family, the likelihood that that child is going to have, like, reach adulthood and reach, have a better life, reach adulthood is much higher. This is actually better for the child.
Yeah.
Again, not necessarily saying that it's the most moral thing in the world, but I can understand the justification at the very least of the parents.
Yeah, and then if you look at, again, sorry to keep coming to the boy in the box. There's something in my teeth. Sorry to keep coming back to the boy in the box, but based on the testimony from this person who, again, I was able to track down and prove was who she said she was, and that her parents were who she said they were, the police were even able to find the house. They just ended up looking in the house next door instead of the right house. I know I was right because an international detective agency called me and told me I was right.
Still great.
Yeah, so he appears to have been kind of in the same situation. I don't think that he was sold because his parents were being malicious. It appears he was born out of wedlock to an Italian Catholic family.
Out of wedlock in a Catholic family back then was so much worse socially. Like, horribly bad back then.
Yeah, and I mean, my parents weren't married when I was born. I have never once suffered from it.
Yeah.
But I am aware that even back in 1997, that was not viewed favorably.
Yeah. Now people don't really care.
Yeah, like now it's kind of whatever. It happens so frequently, which, again, not commenting on whether or not that's a good thing. Just, I think the fact that we don't treat children poorly because of the circumstances of their birth is a good thing.
Yes.
To be very clear. But with the boy in the box, it seems like the Zarellis sold him to this other family who were on the outside upstanding citizens. They had a daughter already. They just wanted a son. They were, one was a teacher, I believe, a math teacher. The other, I think, was a librarian. They lived in a nice neighborhood at the time. This was also like the Fox Chase area. At the time, very, very nice area in Philadelphia. Today, it's a little more run down, but it's not Kensington. I had a girlfriend in college who kind of joked that she was from like the bad part of Philly. I'm not sure how much of a joke it was, but when I got down there, I was like, this is just a middle class area. Everyone here owns a car. Like, these aren't even twins. These are just straight up houses.
Yeah.
I grew up in a twin. Like, this is a fine neighborhood. What are we complaining about here? Granted, you went a couple of streets over and it was like, But ostensibly, this was a well-to-do family. Not wealthy, but stable. And then, according to Martha, their daughter, who eventually came forward and told police all these things that the police then were like, well, you've told us a very detailed and certainly corroborable story if we put in the effort. But you have anxiety. Can you be trusted? Can you really be trusted? I remember I had even said to the woman from the Vidocq Society, something along the lines of like, yeah, as I've been writing this, I've been trying not to put too much blame on the one officer. I'm sure he was a good guy and a good investigator. He was just kind of a product of the time. She was like, no, you can say whatever you want about him and it'll probably be true. I was like, okay, cool.
Really?
Oh yeah. Apparently this guy was not a great cop. Not necessarily like a bad person, but also not somebody who should be lionized by any stretch. Unfortunately, if Martha's story is to be believed, the main reason they bought this child was not because they wanted a baby boy. It was because they were complete deviants and perverts who were doing unspeakable things to these children. And also potentially part of a satanic cult.
Just about the worst thing that could have happened.
Yeah, but the way she described this child's death pretty perfectly lined up with the injuries. And this was in 2002.
Yep.
And she was living in Cincinnati. She wasn't getting the Philadelphia Inquirer.
And she had been in Cincinnati for a long time.
While. She had moved to Ohio basically as soon as she got to college. And she had told her college roommate this story in the 80s.
Yeah.
Maybe it was probably earlier than the 80s. It's probably the 70s. But she had told her college roommate this story, an abridged version of it. Yeah, that's what it was. She told her roommate in, I think, the 60s. She told her therapist in the 80s.
Yep.
And then in the early 2000s, as this case was, because of the DNA testing in 98 and 2002, as this was getting wound up again, she goes to her therapist again. She's like, hey, I think I want to come forward. Her psychiatrist. And she goes, I think I want to come forward. I want to tell the police what I know. So the psychiatrist contacts the Philadelphia police. They fly out two of their detectives to Cincinnati. And then they sit down and they interview her. And they actually, to be quite fair, they do follow up. They do go and look at these houses. Unfortunately, they went to the wrong house. And so they're like, well, the house doesn't match the description she gave, so we can't trust her story. Even though everything else about the story was corroborable, down to basically anything except the kid dying. Which just drives me insane. It's... I don't remember how we got here.
Specifically, it was talking about the park in Fox Chase where the one child was found.
Yeah, not even a child, 22-year-old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, everybody else is under the age of 4.
Yeah.
Right, we were talking about that, and then we got to selling children.
Yeah.
Nice, cool. Benevolent trafficking, you might say. Don't say that. Don't.
Oh.
No, bad.
Anyway.
I shouldn't have said it either.
Moving on.
But yeah, most of the cases, again, in the previous episode on it, I was like, yeah, the kids got lost wandering around in the woods. It's not a big deal for a child to wander 2 miles in 24 hours.
No, not even close.
Like, there's the one kid from somewhere out west who it's like Les Stroud tried to recreate the route he took, and Les Stroud struggled to do it. And that's one where I'm like, okay, that's weird. That's definitely... For those who don't know, Les Stroud, there was a show called Survivor Man that was very big when we were kids.
Yep.
As far as, like reality TV goes.
We probably watched way more than we should have.
Yeah, and the concept of the show was they would drop Les Stroud off in some whack-ass place with the bare minimum for survival equipment and a couple of cameras. This is before GoPro, everybody. He did not have a cameraman.
Yeah,
it was just him. He was
by himself.
He was what Bear Grylls pretended to be. Because Bear Grylls had a camera crew, and there's pictures of him eating pizza while off camera. Les Stroud would hike across 30 miles of jungle with nothing but a hatchet and a compass and a tarp.
Yep.
And end up where he needed to be to get picked up by the rescue team. That was the show. He couldn't do it. Or at least he struggled to do it.
Yep.
I can't remember the exact details. I'll get to that one eventually.
Environments matter. In a place like what we're describing initially for the story, it's very feasible. Like, for example, I managed to travel multiple miles on a beach in less than 2 hours.
Yep.
At the age of like 3, just because, I was a baby who liked to talk to people.
It is so, like, even in Valley Forge Park, a kid could wander across the entire park in 2 hours.
Yeah, without doubt.
It's a national park. It's not like a big forested one, but it's a national park with woods.
Yep.
It would not be hard. And so I look at all these stories. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, the kid disappeared, and yeah, it was in the woods, and yeah, they were, found a couple of miles away, and the kid couldn't articulate what happened because they're 2.
Yeah.
Or when they do articulate what happened, they say weird stuff that it's like, okay, well, this is a 2-year-old trying to explain something to you. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, the 2-year-olds do say weird things like, I was taken care of by a bear. You're like, what? But in most cases, it's just like the kid couldn't articulate what happened because the kid was under the age of 2.
Yep.
And realistically, they probably just wandered off their property.
Yep. Also, really quickly, everybody, in order to keep things somewhat concise, because we've gone over 3 hours every
I see a
every
lot
time.
of super chats coming in.
We are going to answer super chats that were submitted only up until 8 p.m. tonight.
Yes.
We're going to try and keep that going moving forward, just because if we start doing super chats and more keep coming in, we end up staying here until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And A, we're sick right now, so it's going to be kind of hard for us to do. And B, we have loved ones who
would like to see us.
Yes, and get a little upsetty when it goes too long, which is fair.
Yeah.
But anyway, so a lot of these cases are of people that are far too young and far too obviously criminal for them to make sense as missing 411. What do you think are the percentage that actually could be of the 411 profile?
That's what I'm working out with this current set. I think I covered like 13 cases in the first one.
About roughly, yeah.
I think there's about 10 in the second one that are more criminal than anything else. There were a total of, I think, 39.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think all 39 were actually covered in the book. Some of them were just named. Well, so that's the thing is, even like we're at this point, we're down to half.
Yeah.
Less than half.
How many of them were even in Pennsylvania, though?
That's the other thing is I think like 5 or 6 of them aren't in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They're in New York and Maryland and Ohio. And look, if we were talking about Delaware and you're like, yeah, there's these 16 cases in Delaware and then there's this one in Kennett Square, which is, for those who don't know, just north of the Delaware border. That's reasonable. Delaware's a small state. I think it's like 80 miles long. Something like that. And a lot less wide. Okay, cool. No, when you're talking about a case that happened in like central New York, I think it was somewhere, it was like 40 miles northeast of the Pennsylvania border in New York. So northeast. Mm-hmm. You can't say, oh, well, that's in a cluster with something on the border of Ohio. Pennsylvania, how wide is Pennsylvania?
I will check.
Can you look up for me?
Yep.
Also, while you do that, I don't know for certain, but I did just receive this text from somebody who works in government, and I felt like maybe it should be, I will confirm, 283 miles wide.
Yep.
Good Lord. Yeah, so that's not a cluster. That's 2 completely disconnected cases.
Yep.
That is not the roaming range of a Bigfoot.
No.
But I did just receive this text from a government official, so I figured I should probably get somebody who I know works in counterterrorism, or at least doesn't necessarily work in counterterrorism now, but that was his master's program, who we received a screenshot from him. Important, there's a report that ISIS is planning on conducting attacks in the U.S. between mid-March and April 7th. They plan on attacking smaller towns, smaller city hospitals using vehicle-borne explosive devices and intend on taking hostages. ISIS will take responsibility for these attacks. Please be careful and aware. So I don't know yet how serious that is. I'm going to text my buddy now to ask.
Yeah, there's uncertain credibility of the validity of the threats, but
it's apparently like he's sending more texts. It's apparently
either way. The fact that these are even in circulation means you should be on a little bit higher of alert. Anybody that you know in a hospital, make them aware of this being a potential threat at the very least. I'm sure hospitals will be increasing their levels of security as a result, but it never hurts to at least be aware and be vigilant.
So I just said, is that for real? Like, should I tell my audience right now? Seriously. We will see what he says.
Yep.
But because I have a platform, I have a responsibility.
Yes.
So, So, I mean, with the missing 411 cases, you'll see a lot more of it in Friday's video. I don't think any of the ones that we're covering this week are going to be weird. I do think they're criminal for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
They range between like potentially criminal to definitely criminal. I don't know how I'm going to lay it out yet. I might do it that way. Like these ones seem like they could be criminal. These ones are criminal, or I might go by age group, or I might go by location type. I'm not sure yet. But the thing that I've constantly seen that's missing is, ironically, the missing 411 profile.
Yeah.
Like, it's not there.
I was going to say, are there any that have even 3 of the points?
In PA?
Yes.
Michael Malinowski. He's one. Emerson Carbaugh, I want to say is the name. He's another. where these guys are older. One's 37, I think one was in his 50s. Both went missing in wilderness areas. One went missing while hunting.
Okay.
The other one, and this is one of those spots where David Paulides drives me nuts. He opens the video by saying this guy, who I believe was from Trenton, went to a psychology conference. I think he was a professor at one point. Went to a psychology conference in Westchester, Pennsylvania. I went to I started my master's program at Westchester. I'm currently not active because I'm getting to study whatever the hell I want to study. That's kind of the dream when you're an academic. But I'm very familiar with Westchester. I grew up, half my family lives in Westchester. I grew up going there. I've been to sports events there. I ran track against their high schools. Like, I'm very familiar with Westchester. And he says that Westchester is near the Pine Creek Gorge, also known as the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. Aiden, do you know where the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon is?
Yeah, nowhere near Westchester.
It's up near New York.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, Tioga County?
Yeah, it's Williamsport is far closer than Westchester.
And Williamsport's still far.
Yes.
Like, this place is... You almost can't get further away from Westchester in the state of Pennsylvania. You'd basically have to go to Erie.
Yeah.
Which is on Lake Erie. Westchester is like 30 miles from Delaware.
Whereas the gorge is
like 30 miles from New York.
Yeah.
These are not in the same place, David. It's 2011. You had Google Maps.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, how did you make this mistake? These are not in the same place. This guy drove like 6 hours to get to the Pine Creek Gorge from Westchester. It's a long way. Now, granted, is the disappearance weird? Yes. It's weird.
I feel like the weird ones that like actually could be within the missing 411 profile should have their own video of like the actual missing 411 videos of Pennsylvania.
So that's what I'm either going to do, like, because I think there's really only 2 or 3.
Okay.
And unfortunately with the Malinowski one, there's like 2 newspaper articles about it. One, his family talked to a local New York paper, local to where he went missing. And the other was basically a Philadelphia Inquirer reporter talking about how weird it is that his family only gave an interview to one small town paper in New York. Which again is why I've been oscillating back and forth between, like, do I put this in the potentially criminal video or do I put this in the potentially supernatural video? I don't know. Alex is calling me. Hello? Hello? Yeah, are you in your car? Okay, yeah. Right. Well, yeah, of course. Which is, we did mention it, but we decided against stirring up Panic. It was a hard decision. Panic would have done great numbers, but we decided to be responsible. I just wanted to make sure that this was a legitimate concern, so that I could tell people, like, hey, just kidding, if it wasn't a legitimate concern. But I trust you. I don't think you would send me fraudulent information. All right, cool. Well, I'm actually live. I'm live right now, so I do have to run, but I will give you a call in like 40 minutes. All right, talk to you soon. Bye. So it's a real thing. He says not to freak out, but also be on the lookout.
Yep. Just about what we said earlier.
Yeah. Again, Panic would have done numbers, but we're not that kind of channel. I did see a video today. This is one thing I wanted. If you come across a video on YouTube, like a short specifically, that is one of those nonsense conspiracy theory videos, I'm looking at doing shorts about those. Please tag us so that I can find them. Because the problem is my algorithm is too focused on video games and stuff about the mechanics of World War II aircraft right now. I don't know why the latter one.
I was going to say, because like the latter sounds like mine.
Yeah, no, it's basically all Mountain Blade Warband or animated stuff about World War II.
Interesting.
Yeah, right? Mountain Blade Warband just came out with a pretty cool announcement that I'm excited for. Unfortunately, despite being about Vikings, essentially it did not help our video. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. They just hate us, but we complained about that last week. So yeah, there's a couple of weird cases. At least one will get its own video. I don't know. Malinowski might cap off all the potentially weird cases video, and then I think Emerson Carbaugh is getting his own. But yeah, with Malinowski, it's like there's 2 articles on this. Exactly 2. Happened in 1996.
Not particularly long.
They're long. They're just there's not enough in them. And I wasn't able to dig up. I had Mikey file a FOIA request, and they basically were like, "Yeah, we don't have any information on this." The state police. So
96, really?
Yeah. Well, again, I think they chalked it up to being a suicide.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. Sorry, a self-unalive. Sorry, YouTube. I know you're sensitive about that word these days. Sensitive enough to drop our impressions by 50%.
For over a month.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine that people can just get on here and lie. But no, we talk about a tragedy in a historical context, and that's apparently against the rules. Anyway, we have super chats.
We do indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sending super chats preemptively. We always appreciate it, and we look forward to addressing all of the ones that you sent prior to 8 p.m.
Yes.
First one is from A7XM Shadows 19 for 199 saying, missing 411 more like missing 404, but I'm
You silly.
Flaw said Mattis doesn't have a gun. This seems to be a meme in chat right now, because a lot of people were saying that at the beginning of the show.
There's at least 2 in this building right now. I just want to be very clear. Don't come here.
Uninvited. Don't
Uninvited. If you're invited, feel free to come here. Just like it. I want to be very clear. Do not come here looking to hurt somebody. You will leave in a body bag. Like, I know it's just a joke, but I want to reiterate that.
Do not come here in Minecraft.
Listen, therapy is expensive. I don't want to pay for it. I probably should. Realistically.
What? Therapy? How is it?
You think I'm going to boom and not need to go to therapy about it?
Oh, fair.
I'm not a psychopath.
Yeah, that's valid.
I mean, I might fantasize about retaking Constantinople, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't need therapy over it.
Yeah, more the, I don't know. What's a like propaganda war movie?
A what?
A propaganda war movie. I was trying to think of a war movie that glorifies war, and I was like more of that rather than like,
Probably most things that came out in the mid-2000s.
Really?
Oh, the DOD was going hard in Hollywood.
Like what?
It was mostly stuff that wasn't an actual enemy. Like, I think Battle Los Angeles, for example.
Oh, okay. See, every war movie
like,
I was
the army is so cool.
Yeah. No, to me, everything I was
especially when they're killing aliens.
Black Hawk Down was definitely not pro-war.
That was the 90s. Or early 2000s.
Yeah,
but like that was like pre-9/11.
Yeah. Jarhead definitely was not pro-war.
Yeah, I don't know when that was.
2005.
Yeah. There was definitely, I'm not saying there weren't anti-war movies. Just like there were a lot of pro-war movies, and especially video games.
Oh, yeah, video games for sure.
Dude, Call of Duty was just straight up propaganda, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
That's why the newer Call of Duties flopped. They weren't propaganda. They were trying to present war as it really is.
But they weren't doing
Except
it to the
with
level.
all sorts of crazy sliding mechanics.
That's the thing, is it's you either got to go one way or the other. You can't try and bounce in the middle. You either need to go old school Call of Duty or hell let loose.
Yeah. No, I miss, the Ramirez Last Mag Make It Count is burned into my brain.
The what?
Ramirez Last Mag Make It Count from the White House mission in Modern Warfare 2. God, what a great series of video games. Oh, I miss it. Anyway.
You can always replay them.
It's not the same.
That's fair. Montana Leslie is a new member.
Woo! Thank you.
Gomb says that the girlfriends should host the April Fool's episode.
Oh yeah, we didn't shoot one, did we?
No,
I'm scared to. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that going to be on April 1st?
I don't know. You want to check? Also, Duo Black Rose is doing us a solid here, saying, listening on my new Raycon TM earbuds, best sound quality I've had on earbuds. Thanks for the discount code.
Well, thank you for using the discount code.
That helps us, and we're glad it helped you.
Also, really affordable headphones, like earbuds.
Yeah.
Like I think they're like $60.
Yeah.
For what you get, they are worth it.
Yeah, definitely the best bang for the buck that we've seen.
Yeah.
Ancient Anglican for $2 says, more like missing credibility, am I right?
Yeah.
fellas?
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the things that you've discussed about David Politis on this channel and in the videos that we've created really just lends itself to believe, in my eyes, that there just wasn't due diligence and confirmation bias due to a desire for a specific hypothesis to be proven correct.
He wants you to think Bigfoot's taking people in the national parks.
Yes.
Bigfoot isn't taking people in national parks. At least not that many people. He might be taking some. I mean, the natives almost ubiquitously say that Sasquatch steals women.
Yes.
Like all the stories.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy.
Generally, Sasquatch is usually a term in reference to members of mountain tribes
That appears to be the case.
who wear furs or are just more hairy.
Yeah, you know you remember the hill people who live in the Vale in Game of Thrones? Kind of like that.
Yeah. So that seems to be a more accurate explanation of the origins of the Sasquatch myth.
Which I will give David credit on that. From what I understand, his position on Bigfoot is much closer to that.
Oh, really?
That's from what I understand. Don't quote me.
In that regard, you could much more feasibly argue that Dennis Martin was taken by Sasquatch.
Exactly. We've had it confirmed from people who live like next to the park that to this day there are wild men who live out there who just, they're not like feral people. They're just people. They're bush people. Yeah.
People who just do their own thing. They don't want to be part of society as a whole.
Which, like, granted, I get it.
Think of them like wilderness-prone Amish, except probably without the religious bent.
Yeah. Or with a lot more interesting religious bent.
Yeah. That we just don't know about. Papa Placid for $4.99 says, hello, Lord Laddies. By the time you read this, I'll be at Bible study, but would you rather run into a mountain lion or a Sasquatch while hiking?
Sasquatch.
Yeah, Sasquatch, because there's the potential that they actually speak English.
Or at the very least that you can communicate and that they're not trying to eat you.
Yes.
A mountain lion, if you aren't armed, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Like, the only way you're not screwed is if you're incredibly lucky.
Yeah. Incredibly lucky. It's a cub or it's injured.
It's probably worse if it's a cub.
Yeah, because that means mama's going to come kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see it, from what I understand, if you see a mountain lion in the wild, the best thing you can do, assuming you're on a trail, is begin going back the way you came, but while facing the lion. So just you make yourself big, you make a lot of sounds, and you back away.
Yep. Thankfully, they're not the type of predator that hunts with a pack, so you don't have to worry about one coming up behind you. So that's why it's very important to not take your eyes off the one in front of you.
Yeah, because and also if you turn around and run, it will chase you.
Yes.
That activates its prey drive, and you're probably done.
Yep.
If one does attack you, it's best to try and let it bite your non-dominant arm and then beat the hell out of it with your other hand.
Yep.
That's really your best. If you got a metal flashlight on you, that's probably your best bet, is give it your one arm and bash it with your flashlight.
Yep. And just hope that it doesn't decide to use its claws on your chest.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to end well.
No. There's really, like, again, carry a gun. Just carry a gun in the woods. Especially if you're alone.
Yeah.
There is never a downside to having 6 rounds of .357 on your hip. The only possible downside is weight. And in that case, Ruger just came out with, or is coming out with, a 9mm polymer that is supposed to rival Glocks, and they are only $500, which is like crazy cheap.
Yep.
For something that's supposed to be on par with Glock.
Yeah.
9mm is not the most powerful round by any stretch, but it's serviceable and it's a double stack. I think it carries 15. It's really the upside of 9mm is that you can carry more of them. 357, you're basically only using a revolver, but that's probably one of the better rounds.
Yep.
But yeah, either if you got to carry a traditional handgun, probably want to look at either 9 or 10mm or 45 ACP. And again, the worst thing that happens is you're carrying an extra 2 pounds as opposed to dying.
Yep. Now, granted, if you're going somewhere like Valley Forge National Park,
Yeah, you're probably fine in Valley Forge. But if you know that there's mountain lions or bears or wolves or really even coyotes, it's probably best to be armed.
Yeah.
I was armed while we were going up to Spencefield.
Yep.
I had a 45 on me, little one, because I'm crazy like that. They have a 3.5-inch barrel.
We did see many bears. We are aware that both at the time of year we were there and also, the frequency of people being in the park, that the risk was low.
Yeah.
But never zero.
Yeah, you're really more in danger from what I understand with bears, you're really more in danger in like late winter, early spring.
Yep.
That's when they hungy.
Also, like in areas where you have more than black bears, for example, brown/grizzly bears out west.
Yeah.
Much bigger concern. Obviously, Alaska, much bigger concern.
Yeah. Out east, you're probably not going to run into an aggressive bear.
No.
If you do see bear cubs, stay the hell away. They're adorable, yes. That is the one thing that every single time will make a black bear charge you.
Yes. Every other time,
they're probably going to walk away from you.
Or you generally run. Every encounter I've ever had with a black bear, which is at least half a dozen at this point, is that as soon as it recognized I was there, it bolted because it was so scared.
Yeah, they know that humans are dangerous.
Yes.
Grizzlies, on the other hand, have decided we're not as dangerous as they are.
Yes.
And most of the time, they're right.
Yep.
You need all 6 rounds of 357 if it's a grizzly.
Oh, yeah.
Woo.
So. Yeah. Anyway. Icy for $5 says, been following you guys since your first video with Wendigo, and I always listen to the lives and the next day at work. Y'all are the best. Keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Also, the Friday videos, the video essays, as of this week, have started going up. They are going to go up. I don't know exactly what frequency.
Try every week.
Yeah, but we're going to want to catch up at a certain point, I would assume. We actually don't really need to, I guess.
Yeah.
They can be old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they started with the Giant of Kandahar episode, and those will be following through. They are video format, I believe.
Yes.
So Lore Lodge is now on Spotify.
Woohoo.
Under the Lore Lodge. This show is the Lore Lads.
Yes. Mr. Dilo has been a member for 6 months and says, Ooga Booga.
Ooga Chaka. Ooga, Ooga, Ooga Chaka. Yeah, there we go.
Trains and Stuff says they were kidnapped by Big Milk and hooked up to machines for such a purpose for our glorious leader's consumption. Praise be to the milk.
I want to be abundantly clear that I ordered no such thing. I prefer my milk to be of a dairy variety. Please don't milk people and send me the product.
Oh. Isn't all milk dairy?
I thought only cow's milk was considered dairy. But now I'm realizing that might just be a misconception in my head. Yeah, cow's milk.
Bovine
variety milk.
There we go.
Preferably from the females of the species. And if you must send me milk of another sort, I will accept sheep and or goat.
Oh, Gomb is making fun of me saying, hey, do you know what a Senate is?
Do you know why the Senate doesn't work now?
What do you mean?
Do you know why the Senate is a stupid governmental body at the moment?
No, not really.
Because, I mean, everybody always complains like, oh, why does Wyoming get the same amount of senators as California?
Yeah.
It's because senators aren't supposed to represent people.
No, it's supposed to be 2 from each state.
Yeah, they're supposed to represent the state government.
Yeah.
There's only one state government in each state. And then the 17th Amendment happened, and they were like, well, what if we just had a second disproportionate body of government in Congress?
What, the House?
No, the Senate. Because the House is proportional.
Yeah.
The Senate is not.
Yeah.
This is more for the audience's benefit than yours. It's just like,
Okay, yeah, I was
the
gonna
reason
say.
the Senate doesn't work. Which camera are we on right now?
Main one.
The reason the Senate doesn't work anymore is because the Senate isn't supposed to be elected by the people. That's not a bad thing. That's just the way it was supposed to go. It's not supposed to represent you. It's supposed to represent your state's government.
Yeah, because isn't the whole point that one's supposed to be one party, one's supposed to be the other party?
No.
No?
They were very clear that parties weren't supposed to be a thing at all.
Well, yeah, early on, yeah.
But the idea was that it was basically going to be 2 more experienced politicians who could go there and argue on behalf of their state.
Mm.
And then the actual Congress people, the idea was they represent their community.
Congress people being the members of the House.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your representatives are supposed to represent your community, their constituents, whereas the senators are supposed to represent the state government. And the way that the senators are selected in a manner that maintains the people's authority over them is because the senators are chosen by the state government, which is elected by the people.
Yeah.
So there's an extra step of separation there.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was, it's like, all right, well, we trust these people from our community
Yep.
to make the best decisions on behalf of the community.
Yep.
And then those people who are already supposed to be considered something of an elite within the community, the most intelligent, the most successful, the ones who are most capable, they're then selecting the people who are going to fill that role for the state at the federal level. So, you want to get your working government back? Repeal the 17th Amendment. Nobody's benefiting from that except the political parties.
Also, change how you vote.
Yeah, first past the post is a stupid system.
Well, not just that, but also like the conditions upon which you vote for a candidate. Focus more on the things that matter.
Yeah.
And not whatever political football both parties have decided that they're going to try and cultivate an emotional response from you from.
Isn't it crazy how, like, there are 3 issues that have just been an issue since the 60s?
Isn't it nuts how none of them have been solved because
Yep.
it's been able to be consistently taken advantage of for the sake of emotionally aggravating the public to the point where they go to the polls?
Wouldn't it be so nice if instead of picking between 2 options, you got to rank your choices?
Would it be so great if the people you elected actually solved the problems that you elected them to solve rather than just kick it down the road, push it down the line?
Wouldn't it be great if a corporation or a union didn't have the ability to just donate endless amounts of money to a campaign because of loopholes? Wouldn't that be great?
Be amazing.
Change the law. Just change the law, guys. Not you. You guys can't change the law, but you can vote for people who will. Unfortunately, because of the law, they won't win. And that gets into spicy territory.
That's territory we can't cover on this.
There's
show.
a certain Thomas Jefferson quote that's feeling more and more relevant.
All I can say,
I understand what the lesser Mario brother did.
there has been a noticeable drought in relation to certain elements of the forest.
Yes, the trees of liberty are not being watered.
They're not.
And there is if somebody doesn't, pay them some mind soon, I worry that they will be watered aggressively.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
No, we don't.
This is not Timcast. We don't want the Civil War. We're good.
Don't get in trouble with
I know I'm going to be down there on Thursday. We're going to be down there on Thursday.
Yep.
I've been on that show.
I know. You
I can't believe I navigated that show.
I was literally just going to say you did such a good job of not letting him box you into a corner.
Oh yeah.
Cuz my god, he wanted to.
He wanted to.
He tried so hard.
I was like, "Hey guy, my favorite part is the part of the show where there was kind of an argument going on over the draft. And there was some people who were like, well, no, if we're drafting men, we should draft women too. And then some people were like, well, no, we should only draft men. And I was like, hot take. How about we don't draft anybody? Roman helmet guy got mad at me for that one on Twitter recently.
Did he really?
Yeah, not like mad, but like we were arguing about it.
Yeah.
Because he was like, well, World War II cost like 40% of our GDP, so how are you going to do that without a draft or taxes? Because I was like, well, you don't need a draft if you offer people a lot of money to go fight a war.
Yeah.
He was like, well, how are you going to pay for that without taxes? Because, taxation is theft. And I was like, I mean, instead of, we operated without income tax for a while. We could go to a VAT tax system, a less spicy tariff system.
Yeah.
I mean, most countries funded their governments on tariffs for basically all of early modern history.
What might be cool? Abolish an income tax and institute a luxury tax.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're trying to buy a Toyota,
I would prefer to be taxed on the things I buy and not the money I make.
yeah, if you're trying to buy a Toyota, tax isn't too bad. If you're trying to buy a Lamborghini, you're going to have to pay a lot of money.
You don't even really need to do that. You just establish one tax rate, and as stuff gets more expensive, it gets higher.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. But that's my point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Also, why are we taxing cigarettes? That's just a tax on the poor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, sin taxes are just a tax on the poor.
Yeah,
That's not cool.
I think it's, well,
I should say they disproportionately affect the poor.
Yeah, I
In
think,
theory, the idea is if I tax the hell out of cigarettes, people won't be able to afford them. The problem is that's not how addiction works. Sorry, this is not the politics lodge. Not that I think we're saying anything that most people don't agree with.
yeah, no, I feel like,
The taxation is theft one might be spicy, but
yeah, we, for the most part, I think we generally tend to stay in the realm of reasonable, common sense things on this show.
exactly.
If we don't, let us know. CDog1019 for $20 says, on content and the John Bonet series, don't be afraid to tell us that there's more info in past episodes rather than spending 1/3 of the follow-up episode recapping. I kept checking to see if I was rewatching episode 1. Big fan.
Did I? I didn't think I did that much recap.
There was some in 1 or 2 of them, I guess, where you kind of like, the issue is that because so much happened in the first like 72 hours,
Yeah.
as you went further into that 72-hour period in the first like 3 episodes, you would often refer back to things that happened.
Yeah, that was more me just trying to remind people.
Yeah, and I think there was there was a general recap, but
also I was trying, I don't know how much it came across. I was trying to write those episodes in a very specific way, which was that they would feel like a coherent story from episode to episode instead of it being kind of like, all right, go back and watch this if you need this background information. I was trying to make it more of a story as opposed to, each episode had a theme.
yeah.
I don't know if it came across. Again, I'm new to that kind of writing. So
I think it
also I want to turn it into a book when I'm done.
Yeah.
So
AZ Cosplays has been a member for 3 months.
thank you.
Lisa Shelton is a new member.
Thank you.
And White Trash Panda has been a member for 6 months.
Thank you.
And
It's definitely more than 6 months for White Trash Panda.
100%. Nicholas Long for $5 says, greetings from Pennsburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, well, hello. Where's Pennsburg?
I don't know.
It's got to be somewhere around here.
I also do think it's funny that they wrote the Constitution in Philadelphia, but they misspelled Pennsylvania on it.
What?
Yeah.
Huh?
And there's a few typos in the Constitution. This is me having...
It's handwritten,
last
so...
night. Yeah. But one of the most glaring typos is towards the end of it, Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
N is spelled with one N. Even though they spent like 40 days or something in Philly hammering out what was going to be in the Constitution. I don't know.
And it's not like they printed it either. So
I know. Oh, it's funny.
I don't want to read a transcript. I want to see the document.
I'm
I'm trying to find it.
Trying to
Where did they misspell it?
towards the end, I believe it was.
Like in one of the articles? God, it is such a... I'm looking for it. Was it like one of the... Was it in one of the signature areas?
I think so.
No, yeah. Also, that looks more like an O than a P.
Yeah.
It looks like onlyYlvania.
You gotta love it.
That's what happens when Josh Shapiro starts the OnlyFans.
So Zadok Attack just gave us $50 like right now.
Thank you.
Saying, I need my nicotine more than you need your catalytic converter. P.S. I'm in your walls.
I mean, you joke, but yeah, that's how a lot of people end up looking at it.
Yeah. The amount of people I know that have had their cat stolen in Philly is surprisingly high.
It's weird.
There's a lot of rare and like expensive metals in there.
Man, addicts are some oddly efficient people.
Yeah. They're not idiots.
So you're telling me that there's a bunch of rare minerals and metals in catalytic converters?
Yes.
All right, boys. If you know what, YouTube, if the channel ever, if you continue killing our channel, I'm going to steal all your catalytic converters. How's that sound?
There you go.
Find you.
Yeah, no, the cats have stuff. I can't remember exactly what's in them, but they're worth like $200 or $300 because all of the metals that they're in them specifically, all the exhaust runs over them, and it passively converts carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's the reason they're there, is because they're lowering greenhouse gas emissions specifically, not in the sense that they're lowering the gross amount that come out, but
They're making the ones that do come out less toxic.
exactly.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Now, if only we could use them to create diamonds.
I mean, we have lab-grown diamonds.
I know, but like it would be pretty sick if you could make diamonds in your catalytic converter.
Yeah.
Elon, get on that.
Yeah, the biggest problem with that is getting the amount of energy it would take to turn carbon dioxide into like a carbon chain that is stable as its own element requires way more energy put in like than would be like economically feasible to use the byproduct or the end product
Yeah, that's
or anything.
I'm not one of the big brain science boys. I'm just saying do it.
But they wouldn't be able to market it to anybody.
Find a way.
Fair enough. There it is.
If somebody does it, they're going to become very rich.
No, that's the problem. Is because any purpose of utilizing that carbon, for example, like if you wanted to use it for carbon fiber, there are far cheaper means of getting carbon chains that can be utilized for the fabric and threads in carbon fiber. You would be like multiplying the cost by magnitudes.
All I'm saying is that when I was in college, I knew a guy named Vince, and Vince made a very smart decision, which was to set up an entire PC that did nothing but mine Bitcoin using the university's Wi-Fi and power.
That was smart.
It was. So somebody just needs to do that with catalytic converters.
We know somebody who heats their house by doing that.
Impressive.
I can't remember who. I hope they use solar panels or wind, because the power consumption on that would be brutal.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Joshua Duguay says, would you guys consider doing an episode on the Molly Bish case? Write that down.
I'm going to have to write down Molly Bish.
And then Cheyenne Tetrault for Canadian $5 says, sorry you guys are cold, sending warm thoughts. Sounds like how my bus has been all winter.
Probably.
Bus cabin that I live in, it got to negative 61. Whoa. Where do you live?
Where the hell do you live?
Well, it's Canadian $5, so I imagine somewhere in Canada.
Is it like none of it?
Yeah, literally.
You up on Baffin Island?
Oh, I wonder if because we've developed such a large Canadian audience, if somehow Canadian servers are bottlenecking American content somehow as a result of current politics. I don't know.
No idea.
Hopefully not. Zork,
Yeah, YouTube, we're not Canadians.
Zork the Destroyer for another Canadian for 249 says, bro, Ben Franklin is history's greatest hag maxer, which is a phrase
What a term.
I didn't think I'd be saying today. Yeah, that's valid. Also, the real William White is reiterating that you don't have a gun, and so is Gomb for some reason.
I've said what I needed to say for legal reasons.
Duo Black Rose for $2 saying,
I do have an axe. It's right there.
that's true. I have a medallion that apparently you all got very upset about. Don't do it. Are you doing it? He's doing it. I don't know the context behind this, and I don't care, but supposedly it's Chris Chan. The only thing I've ever seen of Chris Chan is the getting arrested thing in like Colorado. That was it.
I am armed with a Sanichu medallion, an axe, and a terrible Bible translation. You know what would be a great thing we could do?
Oh. I was thinking this combination is something that's...
Also, YouTube, for the record, it has a leather sheath on.
This should be a combination that occurs somewhere in the calendar.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yep.
I got to get sexy for the calendar.
Yeah.
I forgot to eat for most of today, so we're on to a good start.
I'm just not going to be sexy for the calendar. I'm going to intentionally be gross because I think it's funnier. So, Dual Black Rose for $2 says, we're supposed to build taller than Penn's hand, not hat.
It was the hat.
Was it the hat? Oh,
It was definitely the hat.
Kyron Wetra is a new member.
Thank you.
Bert Moran is saying you two should do a video on the Circleville letters.
Ooh, I have heard that term over and over again.
I have not.
Also, the Molly Bish one does look interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've got, oh, interesting. Fellow Massachusetts resident Holly Puranen, that sounds like it's probably Finnish, was killed 7 years earlier. Her body was also found in a wooded area in Hampton County. Police considered the possibility two cases could be related. Same person is considered to be a person of interest in both cases. And it was discovered that Molly Bish had written a letter to Holly's family following her disappearance.
Wow. Interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is what I need. I need people to give me weird, unsolved stories that I can cover.
Yeah.
That's been, like, to be perfectly honest, part of the reason I've been depressed lately has been, I'm like, I've taken all the whimsy out of the world.
Yeah, we're having difficulty finding weird stuff, so please email us.
Yeah, send me weird stuff, man. Also, weird conspiracy theories. I need another Chan Thomas video.
Yeah.
Like, I need another thing that I can look at and just be like, oh, we're on advanced schizo posting.
We like doing the deep dives, but finding the stuff can be difficult.
Listen, the basic schizo posting, the, Pancake Earth, and the, at this point, Tartaria, like, it's, hey, come on, guy, like chemtrails, come on. No, I want like the Vatican archives have the testicles of Judas.
Yeah.
Like, give me something like that.
The Pope is actually a demon.
See, there's just a lot of Protestants who will agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Also, for those following my attempt to find an apostolic church to join, I'm looking into the Anglican Catholic Church.
There you go.
Now. I'm currently torn between that and the Orthodoxy. It's going to depend on a conversation I have with the priest. Because there's certain things about the Orthodoxy that I'm like, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I just don't like it.
Abstract Egg for 362. Love the specificity.
Also, wait, I just need to really quickly clear that up. When I say I don't like that, I mean I disagree with it at a theological level, and I think it's wrong.
Fair.
Not just like, I'm like, I don't like the vibes. It's not like that. It's like I have a theological disagreement.
Yes. In terms of other things about your feelings and thoughts, Abstract
I have lots of
Abstract Egg for 362. Love the specificity. Says thoughts on Richard Nixon.
Unfortunately based.
You're gonna have to elaborate.
Well, like, because on the one hand, Watergate was kind of a silly goose move. He was gonna win anyway.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the EPA was a necessity and a great thing for humanity.
Yes.
I mean, it's not now because it's like, hey, how dare you have a duck pond on your territory without our permission? That's not great. Probably needs to be reorganized, have some of their power stripped away.
Yep.
But the fact that you can now see in inner cities is good.
Yes.
The fact that you can breathe, that's great.
Yes.
And on the one hand, like,
the fact that
if you ever
swim in your rivers again.
If you've ever seen the quote about Bohemian Grove.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's I'm going to use the more socially correct and appropriate term of gay. He said it's the gayest thing I've ever seen. On the one hand, pretty offensive to the gay community. On the other hand, utterly hilarious thing to say about a gathering of Republican politicians that happens every year.
Yes.
Like, really funny.
Yes.
So, also, Tricky Dick, base nickname. Like, remember, I remember when Trump was running for the first time and some of the, like, MAGA influencers were going through, like, all of the other candidates. You know, there was, what was it, Lion Ted,
Yep.
Lil Marco.
Yep.
He couldn't think of one for Rand Paul, so he just insulted his hair. But then his influencer people just started uploading pictures of Rand Paul with, instead of Rand Paul, it said Sneaky Pete. It's just like, bro, what? What do you mean? So I don't know why Sneaky Pete was what they came up with, but that was funny.
Yeah.
Tricky Dick goes hard.
Yeah.
Also, him getting impeached and then getting onto Air Force One or whatever the last time and throwing the peace signs, so funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like with Trump, how you're like, unfortunately, this man says some hilarious shit.
Yeah.
You know, like when he was making fun of Michael Bloomberg, he's like, get me off the stage, like. Unfortunately, very funny.
Yes.
Like kind of like Obama, you know, that thing where he ordered a drone strike on an American citizen who was a teenager just in Yemen visiting family.
Yeah.
That wasn't great. But also, the man had a layup.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like, you know.
And he was the smoothest talking president of all time.
Now, let me be clear. I did drone strike that child, but watch me hit this 3-pointer.
No. The best was Bush. What was the
I can't remember what he was saying, but it was such a serious moment where he's like, talking about the war in the Middle East.
Yeah, it was like the war on terror. Now watch this drive.
And then just wallops a golf ball.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. Bill Clinton, you know, basically sexually assaulting an 18-year-old intern.
But he killed the saxophone on
killing it on the saxophone. Like, that's, I think, my favorite thing about American presidents, to be honest, is basically every single one, you're like, yeah, this was a pretty cool thing they did, and they probably shouldn't have done that. And then there's just something absolutely out of left field.
Yep.
Also, like, for example, Reagan, you know, a balloon popping and him just saying, "Miss me," without missing a beat.
Yep.
Like, Teddy Roosevelt getting shot and then continuing the speech.
Did HW do anything noteworthy?
Well, while Reagan was in surgery, he organized the Iran-Contra affair.
Yeah.
There's basically nothing good that can be said about HW.
Yeah.
He's one of the few where you're like, that guy was a bastard through and through.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, basically the one thing that people really come after Reagan for was actually HW.
Yeah. I watched a 3-hour video.
I'm not saying everything Reagan did was good at all by any stretch. I'm just saying, like, the thing people most often bring up.
I watched a 3-hour video on the Iran-Contra affair, and the guy started the video by saying, I'm going to go through all of this the best I can. It's a very confusing topic, so feel free to rewatch. After having gone through all 3 hours of it, I can confirm it's extremely confusing, and I remember basically none of it, so I'm going to have to rewatch it again.
Yeah, Reagan was like in surgery. They invoked the 25th because he was incapable of serving at the time, and then Bush was like, do it, go.
Yep.
Which means they had been planning for it.
Oh, they did. The amount of people,
which makes you ask some questions about who shot Reagan and why.
Yeah, the amount, they were probably just trying to pull a JFK part 2.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
like HW was like, oh, Johnson really had a great idea with that one.
Yeah,
Johnson's another one that goes on that list of mostly just a complete bastard.
Yes,
but also the fact that he like allegedly on Air Force One while losing an argument just unzipped his pants and laid it on the table.
What?
Yeah. Allegedly. He flexed his Johnson, so to speak. Allegedly.
So he's the modern day Plato.
Yeah. There was also the one where he allegedly said, I'll have those, a derogatory term for African Americans voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
Wow.
And allegedly.
Yes.
Yeah, like JFK should have lived. Like the world would be a better place if JFK had been allowed to keep piping Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah. And if Martin Luther King would have been allowed to continue cheating on his wife.
Yeah, probably.
It's amazing how many amazing men of the 20th century, or just history in general,
cheated on their wives.
It's shocking. I think we forget how frequently that, like, great men
weren't great.
Correct.
Yeah. And then you can look at Teddy and it's like the day, I think it was his mom and his wife, or his wife and his daughter or something. Like, I can't remember. It was definitely his wife, and some other family member died, and the diary entry is just, the light has gone out of my life.
Yep.
And you're like, can we just resurrect Teddy Roosevelt and make him God Emperor?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great?
Yeah, because he wouldn't want it.
No, that's the thing. I literally said this to Kat today. I was like, it's a shame that the vast majority of people who lead don't deserve it, and the vast majority of the people who are the right people to lead desperately don't want to.
Yeah. And as I keep saying, I do not want to lead a cult. So anyway.
Trash Talks says, I'll lure your lodge.
Oh, yeah. Also, one last comment on the political history thing.
Go ahead.
I'm not saying that it was the right thing to do, but MacArthur's idea would have worked.
That is a crazy, crazy take to close the conversation.
It would have worked. The war would have been over.
Would it?
He wanted to drop 54 nukes on the Chinese-Korean border. I'd be surprised if there was a border anymore.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It was only the border.
I think it would have made the point. Again, not saying we should have.
You'd think that what had happened in Japan would have made the point enough moving
You would
forward.
think. But we see that was the thing, is we were like, we will never use this again. It would have worked.
What if we just said,
It would have made the point.
if you don't stop, we're going to use it again?
Well, we couldn't, because the Soviets would have done it to us.
Yeah.
If we had nuked Beijing, the Soviets would have nuked, I don't know, Puerto Rico. They're not going to nuke the mainland if we nuke China.
No, but that's my point, is even if we did it just to the border there, I'm sure they would have done it to, like, the border of Canada.
Yeah.
So that's where mutually assured destruction kind of came in.
Or Canada.
Yeah.
Also, one of my favorite other developments is that China was like poking their navy around Australia for a little while. Just being like, ha ha ha, you can't do anything about this. So we just sailed an entire destroyer fleet through the Taiwan Strait.
Yep.
Know your place, China.
It's amazing how much of international affairs is just posturing.
Yeah. Like, I will criticize our government till the cows come home. But the second China is like, we have a new 6th-generation fighter, I'm like, shut up.
Oh,
Shut
also,
up.
by the way, really quickly, just in case, considering there's a lot of weird things happening right now, if you hear anybody talking about a phrase called seditious libel and being in favor of it, beat them with a stick.
Do you mean the Alien and Sedition Acts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically,
Like, they're a bad thing.
yes.
Yeah.
Seditious libel is something that not only existed it was in talks in early United States, but it's something that existed in European countries and in some countries today still does, and is specifically a law that prevents you from criticizing your government. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution exists specifically to clarify that we do not allow
The punishment
seditious
of
libel
seditious
laws.
libel.
Yes. We do not condone seditious libel laws because it prevents the people from criticizing their government and holding them accountable for the bad things that they do.
Which I gotta say, personally, huge fan of seditious libel. I love seditious libel.
Yes.
Favorite activity when I'm drinking.
So good. But yeah, if you hear anybody talking about the Alien Sedition Acts or saying that, seditious libel should be regulated and should be, legislated against.
No, I think seditious libel should be a competitive thing.
I think it should be the benchmark of political discussion.
Forget about, like casual treason. I'm going ranked. I'm going competitive.
But that's the thing, is it's not treason. It's not treason to criticize your government. If anything, if you're not criticizing something that you love, you don't really love
But remember, every 4th of July, treason, 'tis the season.
Yes. Yeah, remember, this country was founded by a bunch of farmers who took up their arms.
And a bunch of drunk people in a few pubs.
Who all grabbed their hunting rifles and decided to join up forces and fight the largest military known to man at the time and won.
Also, like, super base thing, the Tun Tavern in Philadelphia was like central to the stories of the U.S. Army and Marines.
Yep.
And also the first place where Pennsylvania Freemasons met.
That's fun.
There's currently an effort to bring it back, being led by the Masons.
Oh, that's great.
Like to recreate it, which I think would be super cool.
Yeah. But yeah, if you hear anybody talking about the fact that you shouldn't be allowed to criticize the government, beat them with a stick.
Yeah.
In Minecraft. Beat them with a stick in Minecraft.
Yeah. Unleash your inner Andrew Jackson on the steps of Congress that one time.
Yes. Anyway, Zachary Williams for $4.99 says, as a Pepperbox exclusive, would you consider doing breakdowns of media with historical settings and with what's accurate and what's not and why?
I would definitely do that. I'm just not sure if that would get the green light.
Yeah. There's also, there are a number of good channels that do that.
Yeah.
There's one that I really like. Oh, God, what's his name? Nick Hodges is the guy who runs it. I can't remember the name of the channel off the top of my head. Hang on. I just want to shout him out because I've followed his YouTube channel for ages.
Also, really quick, probably the best platform, now that I think about it, if you see bonkers conspiracy content on TikTok, please tag me. It's at the Aiden Mattis. Tag me, because from what I understand, TikTok now no longer gives you a watermark when you download your own video. So I can take TikTok stuff and I can post it elsewhere, and you can't really do that with shorts and reels.
Yep. Also, Nick Hodges is History Buffs on YouTube. The channel has 1.7 million subscribers. He does phenomenal work. His breakdowns of movies and television shows of historical settings are phenomenal. Please go give him a watch and tell him we said hello. Anyway. So yeah, there's the answer there. Elena de Helder Werewolf Queen says, I'm sorry you're sick after last Monday's live stream on John Bonet doing as well as it did. Are you going to return to her case? It seems like we're going to do it sooner than later.
I was going to put it off a little bit longer and hope for things to get better here, but now I'm just trying to figure out when I'll have the time to sit down and really just knuckle down on it, because, to be honest, getting the rest of it done in one video is probably going to be a Donner Party level effort, and the Donner Party video was 2.5 hours long. I think the average runtime of the Jean Bonnet videos was like 45 minutes.
To an hour, yeah.
Yeah, so I think one was like 30-some, one was an hour. So
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a long recording session, and it's going to be a long-ass week.
Yeah, for both.
So what I'm probably going to try and do is pick something that I can... we'll either do something like... I think we're saving this for when we actually go to do the Donner Party trip, but something like stitching together or revisiting the Dyatlov Pass one, similar to the way we did the CTK one. But probably a little bit more intensive. And I'll probably do that and then give myself 2 weeks. That should allow me to get through it.
Yep.
It's been trying to do it in a week.
Yeah, it's a lot. And our weeks are getting busier and busier.
Yeah, because now we have to run a business.
Yeah.
I don't like running a business. I understand why so many people step down as CEO as soon as they have the opportunity to do so. Yeah. It sucks.
Kyron Recha, for I think it's an A669.
That's probably Australian.
Yeah, but sometimes it says OUS.
Yeah, I don't know why.
OUS, I don't know. If you lads make it to Oz, we have lodgings in the Fleury, Passion Fruit on the Vine, Yowies in the... Yeah, it's got to be, because Yowies is... Yeah. In Murray Bridge, and Tama and the Humbugs to Serenade.
They do have Yowies. I've covered Yowies before
so
on TikTok, I think. Yeah, I mean, I would love to go visit Australia.
Same.
I just hate flying.
Same. I could always get us a sailboat and we could sail the high seas.
You think I like open ocean better than flying over the open ocean?
At least you can float instead of fall out of the sky.
Yes, so I can slowly bake and starve to death and then be eaten by sharks.
Okay. I mean, I don't know.
Look, I'll do it eventually.
Fair enough. Daniel Franklin Henry Jr. for 762. Love the specificity. Says, I saw a tall shadow figure Saturday morning while working in a rail yard in Oklahoma City. Not sure what to make of it. Interesting.
Oh boy, this is taking us back to like early Lore Lodge.
Yeah.
So shadow people are an interesting concept.
Yep.
Scientifically, the suggestion is that it's just your brain seeking a pattern. It's pareidolia, right? Is the term for that?
You say paranoia?
Pareidolia? Is that pattern seeking thing?
Let me check.
Yeah. The scientific explanation for why people see shadow people is that your brain is trying to find patterns in the darkness, so it creates humans. The weird part is that basically every single time I've heard people talk about shadow people, they've described a tall guy in a trench coat with a Stetson hat or a fedora or something like that.
Yep.
And then on top of that, there's the problem of, well, what if you see a shadow person in broad daylight? I don't know what to make of that.
Yep.
As you guys probably know, I do not believe, skeptical as I may be about a lot of things, I do believe that supernatural stuff exists. I don't know, shadow, the only times I can think about, I can recall seeing shadow people had to do with a specific note I found when I was a little kid that I can't even remember what it said anymore. Like, that's how long ago this was.
Yeah.
There was no like traumatic event leading up to it or immediately afterwards. It was just kind of a weird, like, I started seeing a shadowy figure at basically as far away as I could see in broad daylight for a couple of years, and then it stopped.
Interesting. Yeah, the only thing I had in that realm was the sleep paralysis thing.
Yeah.
Which was...
Yeah.
That was one of the scariest things in my life.
I don't like sleep paralysis either. I've never had it.
Did you? Well, specifically, was there a person involved?
No.
Oh yeah, there was in mine.
Like, I've never had sleep paralysis, but
okay,
yeah, with the shadow person thing, there wasn't like a person involved that caused me to see it.
Does sleep paralysis usually involve?
I've heard some people say they've seen shadow people while having sleep paralysis, but the most common one you have is the hag, like somebody sitting on your chest.
Yeah, mine. Yeah, it was close to that, but it was more of a like active attempt of attack.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Some people have reported that they feel like something's actively like sitting on their chest, strangling them.
Yeah, that was about it.
Yeah. Not fun.
No, I didn't. Yeah, this was like 10 years ago. Crazy. Anyway, J.A. Kell for $5 says, not much of a coffee drinker myself, but my old man is. Decided to buy some Mount Pocono Perk for him, and he quite liked it.
I'm glad he does. If you haven't tried Mount Pocono Perk, we have not raised the price in 4 years.
Yeah.
Even though there's been a lot of inflation. It's delicious coffee. It's really good. We drink it every day. Honestly.
Just got a new box.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest thing for me is like I get free coffee because we have this coffee. So we haven't raised the price partially for that reason. We're probably going to have to at some point because Matt's going to need to make a profit. But no, if you haven't tried it yet, we're also looking at getting a blend for the History on Hinge show. That'll be like specifically for espresso.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you haven't tried it, it's tableauroastingco.com. Link should be in the description. Ours is Mount Pocono Perk. Stephen Bell from Stakuyan History of Everything. His is Lewis and Dark. And there's also a collaboration bundle, the History and Mystery bundle, where you can get one of each and it'll come with mugs.
Yeah. Bigglesworth223 for $17.76 says, multi-dollar question.
Okay.
That has completely escaped my mind at this time. Have some money and thanks for the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nextus says, good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys too.
Duo Black Rose back again saying, I can hear on my Raycon TM earbuds that your mics are a bit fuzzy. Well,
are they?
I don't know.
I
They sounded fine earlier.
It happens sometimes. Dude, every time I stream at a certain point, like 2 hours in, for some reason, the Discord audio gets really staticky, and then I have to just leave the call and come back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Ella for $10 says, have y'all ever heard of the Whitetail New York Bigfoot Festival? Also, if you are interested, can I give you the contact information for an old professor of mine that does work with the Ramapo Lenape tribe?
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, please do. And yeah, I hadn't heard of the Whitetail Bigfoot Festival, but if it's New York, that might be doable for us.
Yeah, 100%.
We want to go down for the Mothman Festival this year in West Virginia.
That's in October?
I think so. September or October. It's Point Pleasant.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Tyson says, how can I get a hold of y'all about researching and writing for Weird Bible? I'm currently in college for that exact thing.
Ooh. Send an email to thornbury@redactedmediapa.com. because he will see it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. THORNBURY at redacted REDAT redact
REDACTED
PA.
No, redactedmediapa.com.
REDACTEDMEDIAPA.com.
Yes.
It's a lot of letters.
It's a lot of letters.
I'm not very good at spelling. I went to private school.
And they didn't teach him anything about the U.S. government while he was there.
Shockingly little. Crazy, actually.
It was a very funny conversation right before the show.
Yes. Anyway, Geeky Lori says, have you guys looked into Kyron Horman? It's another case of suspected step-parent involvement like Sebastian Rogers.
Adding it to the Google.
Cool.
Kyron?
Yeah, Kyron.
Yep, there we go. Kyron Horman?
Yep.
Gonna be honest, I did not expect him to be a white guy.
Fair. Elena says, if so many of these PA cases are around the same age, does the timeline suggest one or more, in YouTube-friendly terms, PDF files being involved?
They are spread out across approximately 60 years.
So highly unlikely.
And miles apart. Like dozens of miles apart at the very closest. So, no. Fortunately, no.
Fair.
I really do think it, for the most part, when it was one of these disappearances, I think the most likely outcome is that they were adopted out in undocumented adoptions.
That makes sense. Next is for $10 says, time to start my epic quest to day one of asking for a young Earth creationist dinosaur video.
Ooh, that might be a fun one.
What exactly is that?
Well, young Earth creationism in general is the idea that the Earth is only 6,000 years old.
So does it take Genesis literally?
Not even taking Genesis literally. It's just kind of inserting the belief in the young Earth into Genesis. Granted, it does come out of Judaism.
Okay.
But when you read the Bible, you don't have to interpret it that way. Like, there are other ways that Genesis can be interpreted that don't require the Earth being 6,000 years old. And basically the idea is that there's two camps on this. Either dinosaurs didn't exist at all, and all of those bones were put in the ground by Satan to confuse us. Or humans and dinosaurs coexisted.
Aha. Oh, I've heard this, yeah.
So most Christians are not young Earth creationists anymore. Essentially, no educated Christians are young Earth creationists. Young Earth creationism, so far as I understand it, essentially doesn't exist in the Catholic, Orthodox, or High Church Protestant sects. It's basically, at this point, from what I understand, exclusive to the low churches.
Got it.
And even then, it's not ubiquitous. It's just some of them.
Yeah, that could be fun to check out, at the very least. Kellen for 1270 says, I am a very powerful deity, in quotes. It is not a cult, it is a ranch. Okay, buddy, it's totally not a cult, right? That said, as a pagan, I can find room for one more god. 12.7 is metric for 50 cal.
I am a benevolent god.
In Minecraft. In Minecraft. There we go. Trash Talks says... You're gonna upset him.
I know, probably. Listen, it's all jokes, Big Chief.
Look, if I've learned anything from the Bible... If I've learned anything from the Bible, it's that he's got a really good sense.
He does have a good sense of humor. Yeah, making Nebuchadnezzar think he's a cow for a couple of years is funny as hell.
Yes. Giving Pharaoh confidence.
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious.
No, buddy, I promise you can do it.
Crazy work. Trash Talks for $2. Relatively cheap to make Trash Talk. Says, you call it kidnapping, I call it surprise adoption.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Pumpkin Bear 7 for $2 says, I recommend the case of Bobby Dunbar.
Bobby Dunbar. Going on the list. I think you mentioned that the other night.
Next is said, I think Les Stroud...
You did mention that the other night.
Yeah. Next is said, I think Les Stroud believes in psychic Sasquatch.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. The man never presented himself as being any kind of scientific authority.
No.
He was a guy who survives in the woods.
Yes. Well, he does it well. Griff, for $5, says, so if you two had to pick your favorite supernatural characters and it can't be Sam or Dean, who would it be? Also, favorite and least favorite episode.
Ooh, Bobby's high up there.
Really?
I loved Bobby.
I mean, Bobby's great, no doubt.
Rufus. Rufus was also a good one.
Rufus was great.
Ash
was great.
Yeah, Ash was a lot of fun. Joe.
Joe's high up there.
Yeah, all great characters.
The original Ruby was phenomenal.
Yeah. Even backup Ruby was good.
Yeah, she was good.
Not as good. I think Meg was probably one of the best acted characters on the show.
Meg was phenomenal, especially like the mid-seasons Meg.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
So, I mean, yeah, I'd...
You know who I really
wait.
like?
Also, wasn't there a period where... where John came back as a demon?
He didn't come back as a demon. He was back.
Yeah.
For like
2 episodes in season 2 or something. Season 3.
Something like that. Well, he also was back in like
later,
season, like 15 or whatever.
Yeah, he comes back later for a hot minute.
Hendrickson. Loved him.
Oh yeah, Hendrickson was awesome.
Hendrickson. That whole arc was...
Especially because, like, yeah, he's an antagonist, but he's also a good guy.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
and the
Hendrickson was an awesome character.
The way their stories meld
Mhm.
at the climax of that relationship was great. It's a shame what happened to him.
Also, gave us one of the absolute hardest outros to any episode ever.
Oh yeah,
with the shapeshifter.
Yeah,
when they're walking out and it's just the 2 SWAT officers. And they're just, you got Renegade playing. And then finally, as they take off the masks, you get to the... Like, great series. The first 5 seasons of that show were peak television.
Just him being there, just like... We're so screwed.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
Oh, it was so... Yeah.
Also the guy, Frank, in season 7.
Yeah.
He also, if you don't know... plays Gibbs in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's hard to pick one.
Also, Benny was great.
Yeah. I think for me, it's a toss-up between Bobby and Rufus.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Frank was great. I would say either Hendrickson or... I'm gonna have to go with either original Ruby or Lisa Cohen's character.
Gotcha.
They were great. They were fun.
Also,
I couldn't say. Actually, wrong. At least top 3 episode was Baby, for me.
Yeah, it was a good one.
That was great.
I think the Croatoan episode in season 5.
That was fun.
That was a really good one. I loved post-apocalyptic supernatural.
Yep.
Like, that was great. The fact that Cass is like a guru.
Yeah. That
like
was
a sex
so good.
guru. You're like, what happened here? That was by far one of my favorite episodes of the show.
Charlie was great too. Yeah.
Charlie was awesome. I really loved the Scooby-Doo episode because it was just silly. The one where it was the play.
Yes.
Like the supernatural musical. That was like totally fourth wall breaking the whole way through.
Yeah. Also, Mystery Spot, wonderful.
Oh God, heat of the moment. What a great episode.
What was it? The French Mistake, I think it was, or the
yeah, I think French Mistake was the one with all of the.
They get teleported into the like real world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I will say, least favorite character is so easy. Their mom.
Yeah.
Granted, like early seasons, their mom, where she just shows up in flashbacks and stuff. She's great.
Yep.
Season 12. I wanted the entire time. I was like, just kill her already.
They just didn't know what to do with her. They brought her back and then did nothing with her. Also, bringing back Bobby that wasn't Bobby was dumb.
Yeah,
should have just.
They lost the plot eventually.
Yeah,
it got to a point where it was they were writing based on Tumblr fanfics.
Some of it was funny. Some of it was dumb.
Yeah. Once Kripke got back involved, it helped.
I did not believe that Dean would be a secret Super Swiftie fan.
No.
So in like season 12, when he was like, I'm actually like such a big fan or whatever they had him say, it was like,
Sam, I would have believed that.
Yes. Like that.
Sam, I would have believed was a Swiftie. Dean, if you had Dean being like secretly a huge fan of NWA, that I could buy.
Yeah.
I could buy him having a like Compton rap
or like
side.
John Mayer, because he'd be like, no, I swear he's a really good guitar player. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, no.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. As for like least favorite episode, I mean the one where the show's been out for years. Spoiler alert, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. The one where they kill God.
Yeah.
It just wasn't good.
Yeah.
It was like, it wasn't even jumping the shark bad. It was just poorly written.
Yeah.
Like, God felt like a cartoonish supervillain.
Yeah.
And you know, from the early seasons, they had the capability to do really cool stuff. And instead they're like, he's a Marvel character.
Yeah.
Stupid. Also, God's sister.
Season 7 gets too much hate.
Oh, season 7 gets way too much hate.
Yeah.
One of the best seasons of the show after season 5.
Yep.
Like, I consider there to be two separate Supernaturals. One is seasons 1 through 5, and then you have seasons 6 through 15.
Honestly, I consider it 3.
Yeah, because it does get progressively worse after season 10.
Yeah.
Also, the first episode of season 10, I almost stopped watching the show.
Yeah.
Everything about it, from the change in the color scheme, like the way they did the color correction, the writing, the acting,
a soap opera. Yeah.
Ugh. The Nephilim kid, I hated him.
Yeah.
He was a bad actor. Like, not only was the writing bad, it wasn't even a situation where like the acting kind of redeemed it. Like with Jared and Jensen and Misha, their acting redeemed the bad script.
I think the problem with that character though is because theoretically he played it well because the character was supposed to be someone who didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And also for the majority of the time on screen, he didn't have a soul.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how did I forget Lucifer as a character?
Phenomenal. Specifically when Mark was playing.
Mark Pellegrino.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Also based as hell, dude.
Yes. I will say underrated the rock star guy who played Lucifer.
Yeah, he was good too.
I thought he was more intimidating than anything Mark ever did.
Mark was a very believable Lucifer.
Yes.
The rock star guy killed it.
So good.
Yeah, but
yeah, anyway, all right, we got to wrap this up. Nexus sent a bunch of dashes.
All right, thank you.
Is that loss? I think Nexus sent loss.
Probably did.
Yeah, he did. Low says, for adding context to the Constitution, vindication of the government of New England's churches, or New England churches by Rev. John Wise, also had a ship named after him, is a recommended read. We'll check it out. Also, it was interesting because there are definitive delineations between church and state in the Constitution, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution as a term.
No, but the implication is there.
Yeah. It's basically, it was written, the idea was like, if you guys elect a Christian, they're probably going to act like a Christian.
Yeah.
They just aren't allowed to make laws based on Christianity.
Yes.
And people keep forgetting that. It's like, if you, they can't cite the Bible to make a law. They can't establish Christianity as the official religion.
Yeah.
But if you elect an evangelical, they're probably going to oppose abortion. Just you're supposed to have some discernment.
Yeah. You can't prejudice or prevent people from their free practice of religion.
No. You just also can't legislate it.
Yes. Yeah.
Everyone's legislating morality. It's just different moralities.
Yeah. Honestly, at the end of the day, knowing the religion of someone that you elect should make it simpler to know what their morality generally probably is.
I know that if I vote for a Catholic, I'm probably gonna get Catholicism.
Yeah, generally, unless
it's Biden, in which case
Catholic.
it's like, I'm not sure if that man could have entered a church.
Time will tell. And then the last super chat from before 8.
I'm surprised he wasn't
Gom.
excommunicated, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. Is from Gom saying a very fitting super chat of good night, Bussy Boys, 4 a.m. rise and grind tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Sir, I'm still sick. There's not a chance that's happening.
No, not for me. I probably should get the video done. Also, just to clarify, I'm surprised Trump can enter a church, too.
Yeah, valid. That's a good thing to say.
Like,
But yeah,
if I'm being realistic, the only president that I can look back on who I think could have crossed the threshold of a church is Nixon.
which is wild.
Yeah.
And Teddy.
And, well, yeah, that's the last person. I mean, the most recent, would be Nixon. Nixon was just kind of wild.
Yeah.
If you look back on him. What a guy.
Not Reagan?
I will never forgive Reagan for the NFA.
What about Carter?
Did he do anything?
No, that's the thing.
Yeah, he probably could have crossed the threshold of the church, too.
He was very nice. I don't think he really did much of anything good or bad. Everyone kind of forgets.
Which is how I prefer my presidents, realistically. Coolidge, hell of a guy, didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hoover also didn't do anything, but probably should have.
Yeah.
That was an error. That was a misstep.
Veto power is not definitive.
No, Congress can always just rewrite the law and pass it again.
Yeah.
Or they can just pass it.
Yeah. Again, more things that had I been anywhere near motivated enough to read the Constitution prior to last night, I would have known.
Oh, yeah. Our government totally operates on the ignorance of the American citizen.
Yeah. That's how we get ourselves into these situations, ladies and gentlemen. Read the document. It's helpful.
It's a very helpful document.
It is amazing how much more you understand how things work.
Also, like, read it with the understanding that most of the amendments are not changes, but rather clarifications.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, the document itself, as written, protects almost every single right that is enumerated by the amendments.
I think there's only two amendments that actually change anything
One was the
about
17th.
the document. Yeah, one was repealing prohibition.
Yeah. Well,
And then-
prohibition was also one.
No, but I'm saying specifically things that change the document.
Yeah. One was repealing prohibition, one was the 17th.
Yep.
But like, if the Constitution as it's written does not preclude black people or women from voting.
No.
It that's not in there.
But it does clarify.
Yeah, the amendment clarifies.
That,
yeah, you can, like, for example, I think it was Hamilton thought the Second Amendment was totally unnecessary because he was like, well, there's nothing in the document giving the government the power to regulate firearms.
Yeah.
Why do we need this?
Yeah.
And then a few years later, they were like, oh, we need this.
Yeah.
We kind of need this one.
Yep. Oh, also, really interesting thing. You know the whole like argument about well-regulated militia and things like that?
Yeah, in U.S. law, the militia is every man between the ages of 17 and 45.
Also,
18 and 50.
Throughout the Constitution,
18 and 45.
Throughout the Constitution, the Army and the militia are definitively regarded as separate entities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Congress has the power to raise armies and command militias.
Yeah.
Command militias.
Yes.
Militias are not a congressional issue.
Yeah.
Which is why to this day, the National Guard, there's two kinds of militias in U.S. law. One is the National Guard, that's the organized militia, and that is all men and women enlisted or officers in the National Guard.
Yep.
The other is all American men between the ages of 18 and 45.
Yep.
Where
is that codified?
That is, oh God, I can't remember the exact one.
Because that's not
U.S. code. It's U.S. code, though. It is U.S. law.
Yeah. Is it a Supreme Court decision or was it common or legislation? From Congress. Got it.
I'm gonna look it up right now. I can't type.
We're slowly becoming a poli-sci.
Yes, it's 10th U.S. Code, Chapter 12, and it is Section 246, Militia Composition and Classes. The militia of the United States consists of all able-bodied males at least 17 years of age, and except as provided in Section 313 of Title 32, under 45 years of age, who are or who have made a declaration of intention to become citizens of the United States, and of females of the United States who are members of the National Guard. And the classes of the militia are the organized militia, which is the National Guard and Naval Militia, and the unorganized militia, which consists of all members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard or the Naval Militia. So you're militia, I'm militia. Probably about 70% of you watching are militia. Yeah, U.S. law is crazy, man.
Yeah.
If you go back and you like look up everything that went into the 10 amendments, the original Bill of Rights, like for example, the Quartering Act, like the amendment for quartering.
Yeah. Third or fourth, I think.
Third. The funny thing about it is that quartering wasn't that big of an issue, but they made it a very significant part of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Fourth Amendment, as I believe unwarranted search and seizure.
Yep. It's amazing. 4 through 9 are all about criminal and civil trials.
Oh, yeah. And then 10 is basically, hey, just because if we didn't give the power to the government, that was on purpose.
Yeah.
Everything else goes to the people.
Yeah. Yeah, either the states or the people.
Yeah. Constitution's a super cool document.
It is. It's
it is the oldest functioning governmental framework in the world.
Yeah, it's crazy. Having taken way too long to read it, I highly recommend that if you haven't read it yet, read it again, read it another time, and try and read it once a month.
And if the Brits tell you the Magna Carta is older, it's not the same kind of document. It's a charter. It's not a constitution.
Yeah, I'm also, the little booklet I have also has the Articles of Confederation in there. I'm going to read that as well.
Which
later
are actually pretty solid. There were just a few too many holes.
Yeah.
Like currency. Yeah. We should, I like the idea we had earlier, having somebody else run a show where it's just like auditing the monthly Treasury report.
Yeah.
Because that could also be something where you could have a couple of videos on like the Constitution, the Declaration, everything.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for stopping by the Lore Lodge, everybody.
We will see you.
Did we get both $50 ones? I saw 2, and one came in before 8.
Let me take a look. If it came in before 8, I would have gotten to it.
I thought it was. Take a look over there. But if it was a $50, I feel like we should acknowledge that even if it came in after 8.
Yep.
So use the stream activity thing.
Oh, right.
You silly goof.
Oh, no. Ellen803 said, would you ever consider going back through your premieres and do a Q&A with those super chats? And in regards to the text that you got on the live stream, please, everyone be careful. Regardless, don't panic. Don't let you read on either. Yes.
Yeah, so the only issue is that it's kind of hard to go find the super chats.
Yeah.
YouTube does not make that easy. There might be somewhere. I think there is somewhere I can go find them in the dashboard. But yeah, I could probably do that as a live stream over on the Aiden Mattis channel, at least. Yeah, I just got to get back. The issue is I've just been so busy. But hopefully, eventually we'll be able to hire people.
That's the dream.
And then if we can hire people, there's stuff that can be taken off both of our plates and we can get back to making content. All right. Well, thank you for stopping by the Lore Lodge, everybody. Buy our coffee.
See you on Friday for part 2 of Vikings.
Yep.
And Monday for the next show.
Yeah. I would be streaming, but we will be on our way back from West Virginia.
Yes.